Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Jake. You can also call me Atrocious. And today we've got the first round of the Area 2 Tokyo OP10 Championships. I'm so excited to get this to you. It's a little bit different of a video. For those of you that don't know, maybe you're new to the channel, I frequently commentate, do unique English commentary, not affiliated with Bandai, on my channel, right, of these Japan tournaments. And usually I have a nice background, you know, I got a little Christmas tree going on for the holidays, but this time I am in a hotel room in an undisclosed location for a content-related business trip. So more on that in the future, but I was planning to do these championships when I got back home, but I heard that the top 16 match was a brand new OP10 deck, and you already know what it is. I'm the only one who doesn't know what it is at this point, but I decided to break the usual schedule and record while I'm here to try to get you commentary over this deck, right? Because it's brand new. A lot of people don't really know about it, don't really know the functions, things of that nature, and also just get a great match in. So we're gonna flash the metagame. Ooh, okay, so this is much different, I feel like, than our last kind of championships in the Tokyo Championships. If you do not remember, Doflamingo had 4 in there, Blackbeard very populous with 3, and then a slew of different ones with Shanks, Pluffy having multiples, Green, Yellow, Law, Kid, Lucci, Bonnie, Anel. This one looks a little bit different, much more populous in the top end of Doflamingo and Marshall D. Teach, having 5 decks each. There is a new deck though that has multiple entries. It's the first time an OP10 deck has more than one entry in the top cut of top 16. It's Usopp. Maybe Usopp just generally having a good matchup across the field in terms of Marshall D. Teach and Doflamingo. And then you got 4 decks that have 1 each, those being Shanks, Pluffy, Lucci, and Zoro. So Zoro making an appearance once again should be very exciting. Almost has kind of started looking like with the couple tournaments that we've had, right? Singapore top 32 as well, that there's kind of 2 decks that run the field, right? Doflamingo and Marshall D. Teach. I know that at least in Japan, Shanks is very popular, and I know also that Yellow was very popular in this tournament. I saw Gavin say that Anel and OP10 Yellow Kid were much more popular in this event. But before we go any farther, just want to let you all know that I am not the official live stream for this tournament. I'm watching the recording because it happened at like 1:30 a.m. last night. But if you want to go watch it for yourself, feel free to do that. Link is in the description below. And a quick word from our sponsor. I also want to quickly mention that this tournament, our broadcast of unique English commentary, is sponsored by Nen Garden. You've probably heard of Nen Garden before and seen their designs, right? Their Gear 5 Luffy playmat being one of their most popular, and especially if you're preparing for OP9, they've got this stained glass 4 Emperors playmat here for you now. Whether you're a fan of One Piece, obviously, right, or other series like Dandadan, Chainsaw Man, a personal favorite, or even Jujutsu Kaisen, you can get an extremely high quality playmat with stitch edges, rubber backing to trick out your different decks and times that you go to locals. If you're interested in a playmat from their site for yourself, do not worry, you can save 15% off at checkout using NEN15 as a code, and then if you want, you can save even more money by using my promo code Atrocious for 20% off your first order. Nen Garden's got really cool, unique products. Love their styles and mats, and definitely should go check it out if you can. Okay, so we have Usopp coming in here. Usopp is a very interesting deck, right? All of your Dressrosa type characters that have a cost of 2 or more get +1 cost, and that is continuous throughout the game. And then on opponent's turn, once per turn, when one of your Dressrosa characters leave the field of play, that includes KOing, bottom decking, anything, putting back in hand, and you have 5 or less cards in hand, you get to draw 1 card. So Usopp kind of having a similar system as Rebecca, just a little bit more unique in terms of what it can actually do for draw potential in the deck. Doesn't cost any Dawn, it's just characters leaving the field of play entirely, which I really like. So It's going to be curious to see how this deck goes, especially against Shanks, right? We've seen Shanks really get on a good run in the end of 09, and now in 10 has seen a little bit of action. It's going to be really curious because Shanks, you know, a deck that we have seen not really have any sort of early game in terms of bodies to pressure, things of that nature, you know, like no 4 costs or anything like that. It's really just middle ground and high end, and we'll see in this deck if that bodes the same and how it can go with the Usopp right here. We do have deck lists for both players in this one, so we'll talk about those when we get closer. Looking at the starting hand for our Usopp player, it looks like they got a Rebecca Searcher, which is nice to be able to find a piece. Corrida Coliseum is real nice. That's almost giving every character a rush. Oh my gosh, stay there real quick. Almost giving every character rush in the game. So it's going to be really good, especially, you know, for battling different characters and kind of controlling the board, right? Especially if they want to do multiple swings at these big bodies that Shanks may have, right? 7-drop Kyros will be very, very good as a 7/9, I believe. They've got a Leo in there, which is nice, which is basically another searcher, right? You have to rest your leader or stage in order to get that effect. You've got the 8-drop Gecko because you're a black deck. Why would you not play 8-drop Gecko, right? And then a 4-drop Cavendish. So Cavendish being a nice card, allowing you to draw and filter out the hand. I know a couple decks have really liked that card. And looking at the Shanks right here, you got a 4-drop blocker in Tony Chopper and also a Building Snake, as well as a Silver's Rayleigh and 2 Lime Juices. So this list, a little bit different than the OP09 run that we saw with the Shanks a while ago. A little bit more into the Straw Hat package kind of thing, but that Tony Chopper right there, that picture that was Sanji, I promise it's Tony Chopper, that has been a mainstay card in a lot of red OP10 lists that I have seen in Japan. So does not surprise me to see it in this deck. But Usopp was going first. They're going to use the Rebecca. You discard the top 3 and grab a Dressrosa type character that is not Rebecca. So Kyros being the only one of that pile is going to be a nice card to have, right? So we'll see how it goes. You don't like milling the Gecko, but it is what it is. The Shanks on a 2-dawn turn is just going to pass and move into the Usopp's turn, finding another Kyros. Ended up drawing a Radical Beam, I think the Shanks did, 4 turns. So using up the Dawn to play Leo and Corrida Coliseum, right? Gonna rest that Corrida Coliseum. You have to rest a Dressrosa stage or leader. And is gonna look at the top, ooh, and find a Dressrosa character. So you found a Zoro, right? Zoro is a great, fantastic card. One of the best new cards coming in OP10. Unfortunately, you don't like that you saw 3 of them, because that means a majority of them are going to the bottom. So Leo, for anyone who does not know, grabs essentially 2 Dressrosa cards. You put them both in hand and then you trash 1 card from your hand. So especially with the 2 Zoros, thinking about maybe Zoro and One-Legged Toy Soldier as a combo. I don't hate that combo right there. And he is going to go in with that. Don't have like a ton of other counter, so if rush characters kind of come on the field, you might be in a little bit of problem. Remember that both Kyros and Cavendish don't have counter at all, and the Gecko, right? So that 2K, I think, is your only source of counter right now in this game. So we're going to see kind of how that affects him. I mean, if he chose 2 Zoros, then he would have no counter in hand at all, which might be trouble. So is going to go ahead, swing 6 with that Usopp after not finding anything with a 1-drop, you know, just attaching and swinging with lead. And he pitched one of his 2 Kyros into the trash off of that Leo effect. So now going into the Shanks player's turn after taking that life. Does have a Silver's Rayleigh and an Otama in hand, so a little bit of counter power. Does take that first life. It's going to be a Frankie. Frankie, a really nice blocker in OP10 that we have loved to see. Has kind of phased out Rebecca in this deck, right? You know, having an 8-drop Gecko deck, a lot of those decks just play 4-drop Rebecca, right? The Rebecca that people are tired of and want banned from Gecko. But Frankie in a lot of Usopp lists have just been replacing the Rebecca in general, which I find to be very interesting because I do think Rebecca has a lot of value. but is going to start out by swinging 6 right here. More than likely, I think, going to play the Frankie, right? No reason to play the Zoro in your hand. There's nothing on the Shanks side of the field to KO. You might as well go in. Does also have a 7-drop Rebecca, so we may see that card featured in this match and show off how it goes. And it looks like, oh, he's going to actually play the Cavendish. So I actually don't hate this play either with the Cavendish. The reason for that being is you get to do some draw, right? Has a, when attacking once per turn, draw 2, trash 1. So especially, you know, we talked about with no counter in the hand, it's going to be really nice for this Cavendish if it gets to stick on the field to be able to help cycle the hand, you know, keep it alive and pieces moving to be able to stay alive in this match. So now going in with the Shanks, they're showing Korea Coliseum on field. Korea Coliseum, if you do not know, allows Dressrosa type characters that have come onto the field to attack other characters. They can't attack at life when they come on the field. So unfortunately, can't do that. Going to be using the Building Snake right here, and the Silver's Rayleigh just preemptively play down characters on this turn, right? Rayleigh being a blocker, which is very, very nice. And then the Building Snake, just one of your like Raise Max Gordon type cards that bottom deck minus 3,000. Going to be really good in KOing this Cavendish as soon as it uses that when attacking, right? Because being a, I believe, 6,000 power character, you're going to be 3,000 after that Building Snake puts you down. So could also be saving up for a big play on the Silver's Rayleigh, right? Because the Shanks on the even curve just had 6 done. Now that that Building Snake is on the field, bottom deck to minus 3,000 something makes it that much easier for a Silver's Rayleigh, right, that's in the hand to be able to, on an 8 dawn turn, to KO something. So it's going to be really curious to see where this goes right now. The Usopp might be on a 7 dawn turn, a little bit more awkward in a sense, but could maybe play down that Rebecca, I think. The Rebecca would be able to play down both Zoro and Heroes. I'm sorry, Zoro can only KO one character. I don't know why I thought he could do 2. If he could do 2, he would be absolutely broken. But swinging 5 first, and then Shanks using that leader effect to get rid of the attack, right? Puts the Usopp to 4,000 power for the rest of the turn. Plays that Rebecca. So Rebecca, if you do not know. So Rebecca has made this deck very interesting. You draw 1 card, and then if you have an 8 cost or higher character on the field, which with Usopp's effect you do, right? You get to go in and play 2 characters from your hand of 7 cost or less, right? Or one being a 7 cost, the other being a 4 cost as rested. So choosing that Kyros and Zoro, and then using the Cavendish to swing, right? Put the Shanks at 3 life. We now move into the Shanks turn right here. You were able to bounce a character back, right? Because of that Kyros, you were able to put the Silver's Rayleigh back in hand. And you wanted to KO the Building Snake, right? Not only did you not really have a way to minus the Silver's Rayleigh by 1 and make it a 4 cost, but getting rid of that guy means that they can't go ahead and play it down to get rid of one of your characters, right? Especially in combination with the Silver's Rayleigh. So Gordon, Raise Max, Building Snake, a great card in combination of this, is going to play the Silver's Rayleigh to minus 3 and minus 2 the Cavendish, Zoro, and then KO the Cavendish in that order. Cavendish having an on KO effect of drawing a card. And so now being at 4,000, the Shanks is going to swing 5 at it. If there's a 2K in hand, you're going to be able to get rid of it, right? There's a Bartolomeo in the hand, but how much do you value that Zoro, right? You do have 8-drop Gecko in hand, multiple of them, by the way. So you're going to be able to bring this Zoro back. So you really got to look at your trash. You got to evaluate, okay, what is the most valuable to bring back? Do I want to bring back the Cavendish, right? Or do I want to go for the Zoro? Could be really good if the Gecko brings back any cost minusing type of effects, right? To combo off with the Zoro. Might also bring back the Frankie instead. And so we're going to see what this Usopp decides on this turn. Very interesting match going on right now. Feels kind of okay for Usopp. Did really stabilize, especially prioritizing a lot of that draw. Now having Bartolomeo, one-legged toy soldier as 2Ks, and a couple different 2-drop blockers in that. I think his name is Ideo. In Ideo, you know, 2-drop blockers being so prevalent in the meta right now. And so is going to 2K out of it, keep that Zoro alive, and I do like that Zoro play. Remember that Rebecca is that 7-drop Rebecca, a 4,000 power character, so you do have to commit Dawn in order to swing with it, and at 9 Dawn, you don't have a lot of Dawn to spare, especially if you want to use the Gecko. So does draw into another 7-drop Rebecca. That could be nice for playing down maybe these Ideos, right? Could be good, but I think right now you kind of value it a little bit more as a counter. So going ahead and swinging 6 this way, if the Shanks uses leader effect, they do have to commit at least something to this in order to get value, and is going to Otama out. So no leader effect as of yet. Is going to go ahead and swing Kyros. Kyros being a 9,000 power character, is very nice because it is going to force 2Ks, right? Especially since the Shanks has not used their leader effect yet, right? Especially against Shanks, you want to try to get them to use their leader effect earlier rather than later. So being able to leader effect this Kyros would be 2Ks if they had it, but would be costly in order to stay alive on this life. And no Dawn up, so that Radical Beam not going to be able to be used in the hand. Does have a 10-drop Shanks Building Snake again in the hand, so couple 2Ks and a nice 1K in that Silver's Rayleigh at the end. But the Shanks Radical Beam and Building Snake right now, no counter in terms of any of those cards because you can't use the Radical Beam. So we'll see if he decides to use leader effect in 2Ks. Looks like that's kind of what he's leaning towards. Would pitch a lot of the counter in hand though, and so can you have enough counter to survive, right? You do have this Zoro swing that you could potentially take a life. There's not really rush Luffy's that come in this deck in terms for black. The only kind of Luffy's that you see in this deck are the 7-drop from OP04, which just attack different characters, or the new secret rare, which I believe the new secret rare much more popular in the Usopp decks than the 7-drop one is. So maybe thinking about taking this life. I don't hate this play. You kind of save a little bit of counter in there, and is going to get a 2K Tony Chopper. I wanted to say Sanji, but it's a Tony Chopper card just with a Sanji picture. If you know, you know. But the Gecko now really thinking about what they want to do and playing down the Gecko now. So we're going to see what they decide to replace. It's going to be a Frankie and a Leo. So I think that the 2 Rebeccas are probably your choice in terms of the cards that you get off of this. The Frankie is going to be great as a 4-drop blocker, right? Really good synergy with Gecko. But the Leo is kind of cool because it allows, as I was saying, the Leo is pretty cool because it allows you to consistently find more cards, right? Allows you to find more pieces. Now, there's another Gecko that you've bottom decked, so I believe that's all 4 that have been either trashed, in hand, or bottom decked at this point. So thinking about just grabbing 2Ks in the 2 Bartolomeos. I don't hate that play, right? You've already got Leos that can kind of cycle through the Geckos and is going to pitch a Rebecca, that 7-drop right there. So just holding on to as much counter as possible at this point, and does not swing with the Zoro. I think that's a very interesting thing that we saw right there. Doesn't want the Zoro to get KO'd in battle. Really forces the Shanks to use an effect in order to get rid of it. Kind of guarantee that you have a couple more characters to be able to attack, right? Because another Silver's Rayleigh could get rid of that very easily, but you would want that 3,000 power to be redirected to that Zoro and not the Kyros, right? You want to keep Kyros alive if you can. The Shanks did draw that 5-drop Marco. I did talk about in the Aichi Championships right at the end of OP09 how I really love the idea of the 5-drop Marco and is really, really good counter to all the 2-drop blockers that are in the game right now. So swinging this 5 and 8, countering out of the 5 with the Ideo, is going to go ahead with that 8. Could be a Frankie block. Remember that Frankie does bring back a 3-cost or less onto the field when it is KO'd, and so Ideo is a great combo for that, right? They swung 5 first, you countered with Ideo, now you have one in the trash. You can get kind of 2 blockers for the value of 1 within this deck. And so did pitch a couple 2Ks and now has these Shanks The 10 drop Shanks does have Rush, a 12,000 power character Rush, but minuses 1,000 across the entire field the whole time. So does go ahead with the Frankie block to draw one. And now thinking about what they want to play, it looks like it's going to be a Rebecca. So not in Ideo, is going to be a Rebecca, is going to grab a one-legged toy soldier. Had one thought in there on what he wanted to do, and it was counter. But does find another Zoro, so takes it back real quick and thinks about the play, right? Do you actually want the Zoro? I think that's what he's considering. What is more valuable? Do you want the Zoro right now? Do you want the 2K in the toy soldier? You don't have too much counter left in hand. You have the one-legged toy soldier and the Ideo, and you're going to be able to bring back a 4-drop through the Gecko, right? You're going to be able to bring back either the Frankie or a Zoro. So do you want this card in your hand is the real question, or do you just want to save up the counter, kind of counting things up? No, maybe I think this is the 4th Zoro I think that's on the field, because we saw 3 of them in the first Leo search, and then we grabbed one of them right off of the Leo. So this is the last one. So got to be thinking about, especially with the number of searches that we've done, right, and the number of draws, do we want the Zoro or not? And opts for the one-legged toy soldier, says no, I'm just gonna go get that, and passes the turn off to the Usopp. So the Usopp now really starting to work, it feels like. Does get another 2K in that Bartolomeo, so you do like to see that. But what do you do? If you play another Gecko, you have to get rid of Rebecca, Leo, and probably Zoro, I would think. You wouldn't want to get rid of the Gecko or the Kyros, and so remember that your characters now also are minus 1,000 across the board. That's why this OP09 Shanks is so good, right? You definitely want to get your playset if you're thinking about getting in the West your OP09 cards. And so now Usopp just swinging 5 at lead. So going to just use leader effect to make it a 4 allows the Zoro to freely swing 5,000. Now I know that Zoro is a 6,000 power character, but remember, because of that Shanks, everything on the field is minus 1,000 continuous for the whole game. So this Kyro's now swinging 8,000 power. It makes it very easy for just a couple 2Ks for this Shanks to be able to counter out of it. We saw several 2Ks in there, still 2 lime juices, I think it looks like, and Otama, and also that Tony Chopper, but might end up running low on counter, especially after this Gecko swing, right? If they don't want to take a life, is going to go ahead, swing 8,000 now with Gecko. Again, could just be 2 easy 2Ks. Might go ahead and take this life just to not commit too many counter cards in a single turn. Going to be a building snake, so going to be nice if you want to clear board next turn, right? With 2 of them now in hand. You don't really have a big body to play, so one of the things that you could see this Shanks player do is play the 2 building snakes, minus a couple things on the board even more, and then go ahead and swing into them, try to clear board, and then use the Silver Israeli to put a blocker on field to round out the turn on 5 Dawn. Might not be a bad play in my head, I'm thinking. And so now the Usopp player really thinking about what they want to potentially use, is thinking about what they want to bring back. You could bring back the Frankie or the Zoro, but first is gonna play a 2-drop. I think maybe thinking about trying to clear one of these big bodies, is gonna play that one-legged toy soldier, is gonna go ahead and trash itself. And when you do that, trash that one-legged toy soldier, does -3 one of the characters. So here we go with Rebecca, bringing back the Zoro. That was the choice, doing a little bit of board clearing. Does have a Suru that was minusing more, and so now -5 in general, puts that Silver Israeli to a 3, and the Zoro goes in and KOs a 4 cost or less. So does get the board a little bit more cleared. Not as many potential characters to be swinging at you in this turn, and I do like this play from the Usopp. It's definitely apparent that the Shanks is trying to go for board at this point with these different characters. And is that top deck another Shanks right there, or is that a Monkey Day Dragon? These Shanks effects, that 10-drop does stack right through the entire board. So if he played another one of those 10-drop Shanks on the field with that, Conqueror's Hockey, that would be minus 2,000 to everything on the board. So now if you wanted to swing with that 6,000 power Zoro, you would have to commit at least one Dawn in order to swing at lead. And even then, just a leader effect kind of shuts it off. So you're in an interesting spot if you're the Usopp, because you do have a little bit more board control at this point. But one thing that is very scary at this point is, one, the boss monsters are starting to come in for the Shanks player, but also you only have 4 cards in hand, right? You have a couple 2Ks and a 1K, but that doesn't really do much against this 12,000 power character, especially if it starts swinging at face. So still a balance of a game right now, but is going to go ahead, swing 12,000 at, I believe, the Gecko at this point. So 12,000 at 8,000 is really thinking about what he wants to do. Could pitch all of the counter in his hand to be able to get over this and be able to keep the character alive, right? 2K, 2K, 1K would be 5,000 power total, would get you to 13 in general. And is going to do it. He is going to pitch all the counter to get out of that swing, keep that Gecko alive. We'll see what he does right here. That might be a Monkey D. Dragon in his hand, Monkey D. Dragon. So either way, I think it's going to be a rush character, right? But ends up playing the Silver's Rayleigh, so gets a blocker on the field, does do a little bit of draw, does need to pitch a card. Another Building Snake, I think, was drawn, and that is a Monkey D. Dragon that he got. So being able to get that guy in the hand is going to be nice for the next turn, right? He's probably thinking about right now of leaving one open for the Radical Beams that they have in hand, and I do like this play of getting rid of the Building Snake, right? You don't need 2 of them in hand. It's really kind of like, do you even need 1 at this point? I mean, I don't think you want to get rid of any of your 2Ks or Radical Beams, right? Because you want to be able to survive in the next turn. You don't want to go down to a bunch of swings, even though there's a little bit of minusing on the Usopp side of the field. You want to be able to live at least. So may attach 3 Dawn and swing, maybe at a Gecko or Kyros. They got to think, do I know potentially what this card is in the hand, and is it a counter card, right? If you attach 3 onto this Shanks and go ahead and swing with it, you'd have to bank on the Corrida Coliseum not being a counter card. But maybe is thinking about using the other Building Snake to minus some power on one of those characters, maybe then go in with the Shanks and go and swing. So it looks like going at maybe the Gecko. It looks like the Gecko is minus 3,000. So that's minus 4,000 power in total to the Gecko. The Shanks, if he just swings at it, takes a KO. And with that 7, is going to get a knockout with 1 card, not really a way in the game to get to 8,000. So kind of just took the guaranteed KO, right? Took the safe route with the Dawn and leaves 2 up for the Radical Beam. So the Shanks player will not lose in this turn, but it is getting a little sketchy. But here's the thing, if you're the Usopp, right, your Dressrosa characters haven't really been getting KO'd, right, except for maybe the Frankie earlier and whatnot. So you haven't really been able to draw cards in this deck. That might be one of the kind of the key problems within this deck, is a lot of the cards that you're playing, right, in terms of stuff like the Gecko, is not being KO'd, and so you can't use that extra draw. You get the +1 cost, which is good in like a lot of black matchups, or maybe even Doflamingo, but your draw support is heavily reliant upon your opponent taking knockouts, and so is going to go ahead, swing 9,000 power at lead. Remember that minus 1,000 from the Shanks. Now with this 9,000 power Zoro, we're going to see what he does right here. So he has plenty of counter in hand. He's got Radical Beams, he's got 2Ks right in his hand. What is he going to do off this one? It's going to be curious of what you would want, because you would expect all of these swings are going to start coming in at face, right? Especially with, leaving 5 or 6 on the field. You got to expect potentially like a Sabo to come in, maybe a blocker Sabo, and is going to go ahead and use that Radical Beam. I think also use the leader effect. So leader effect now gone. Is going to go ahead, attach the rest to, oh, I'm sorry, I thought he was attaching the rest. is just going to attach 1 to the Kiro. So now again, another 9,000 power swing looks to potentially be the magic number at this point. And so could attach 1 to the Gecko, swing another 9,000, and then go in and attach the rest to Usopp and swing again another 9. And so how do you counter out of this if you're Shanks? I mean, I don't think you're going to die within this turn, but I think it could put you at 1 life at this point, and lots of characters on the side of the field for the Usopp that you have to try to get rid of. And so the Shanks looks like going in with that Radical Beam is going to put him up to 9,000 and use a Tony Chopper to go to 11. Did he need to use the Tony Chopper? I guess he only has 2Ks in hand, so you do have to get rid of it. So thinking about now in the hand with the Gecko, if he just showed me a 2K, right, instead of a 1K, right, because he could have used a 1K to get out of it instead of committing the Tony Chopper, but because he used the Tony Chopper, I'm going to continue to swing 9. Go with this game plan of just swinging a bunch of 9s, right, and see what happens. So he is going to take that life. It is going to, it's hard to tell. It's a Ben Beckman, so I do think it is a card with counter. And so now with this final 9 swing is going to block with the Rayleigh and 2K out of it to get the Rayleigh to 10,000 power. Very interesting in order to keep this Rayleigh on the field. You do have the Dragon, so you're really going to need to clear board at this point, right? The Usopp player just didn't play anything down in the turn. Could also go in with another Rayleigh if they wanted to. Just another nice blocker to be able to utilize. But I would expect the Dragon to come down if anything. And so you definitely at this point, if you're the Shanks, you go in and clear board, right? Do you clear board? Are you on a little bit of a clock? Does clearing board allow for more potential on the Usopp? Or do you kind of go in, you kind of stack, you clear the board a little bit and then stack in the final turn? You just take out all of this life at one time. Committing 1 Dawn to the Rayleigh is going to swing 7 now. Looks like at lead, so starting to go at life is going to go ahead and take that. Could be a Dragon now coming down. Dragon is going to put 2 Dawn on the field and 2 2Ks in the hand. So if the Shanks continues to go at life, they are going to be able to get out of this, right? Just 2 2Ks at lead is just going to be able to keep him alive and not lose this game, right? At least on this turn. But now, as the Shanks, do you start going in and you just go at life at this point? I think Shanks kind of seeing the writing on the wall of like, oh no, he just 2 2K'd me. So therefore, the Usopp is just going to go in with a bunch of swings now. At this point, no point in committing anything else. No Dawn open, no blockers. Put it on the Gecko, the card that everybody hates, in order to claim the victory. Usopp doing a great job, especially as cards got real low in the hand, right? Being able to balance the different things that they wanted to do and the different plays that they could make in order to continue applying pressure, to continue to evolve within this game. So we don't have the official deck list of this Shanks in this tournament, but we do have a sample deck list that is probably somewhat similar in a lot of different facets, right? We do have, I think, every single card that the Shanks player used within the game, but there might be some tech cards that we didn't see. Some ratios were different within that tournament. But here's an interesting list of what Shanks can look like in OP10, right? You have a very interesting slew of 2Ks within this deck, because 2Ks, in my opinion, working very well for this deck, especially because your leader effect, right, puts things down in value. This list specifically playing a playset of the Tony Choppers, Lime Juices, and Otamas, and then slides in a couple Sanjis and Hongos to add value in certain matchups. Your slew of big bodies are so popular in this deck, right? Not too many decks playing so many big bodies like you are, I would say, in the format. Ben Beckman starts off your big bodies with 7 cost, right? 8 cost is Rayleigh, Dragon, and then a slew of 10s like OP06 Shanks, OP09, and then the secret rare Gold D Roger. Your game really kind of kicks off at 5 Dawn and higher though, playing Marcos, Silvers Rayleigh, and potentially Aces. I know some lists play the Ace, some lists don't. And if you're looking to potentially change up the list a little bit to more closer to what we had in the tournament, I would say the Divine Departure. We didn't see one in this game, not necessarily saying that they didn't play one, but you could probably knock down this and the guard point a little bit in order to add a couple of the building snakes, right? Because I think we know that there were at least 3 of them within the deck. Probably start off with guard point, right? Because I think Divine Departure is just a better guard point. Maybe not better because guard point has the trigger, but that would, I would say, be the only difference in this list. This is an Usopp list that I think is pretty close, right? I don't think we had too many changes at all from this list that I can remember, right? The new Dressrosa package working out so well with some of the older Dressrosa cards that we got in OP04. You've got your old package, right, of the Rebecca Searcher to look for some stuff, your 2Ks in Bartolomeo, you know, potentially playing some Gats as well, and then also a one-legged toy soldier, maybe a couple of them from OP05. But some of the other great additions in the deck that we saw, like Leo, right, being able to search and find different key Dressrosa pieces of the puzzle is really nice to be able to grab 2 cards from the top 5 and then just trash one later. Synergizes very well with something like Gecko, right? Gecko being able to revive, one of the best black cards in the game, and getting a new toy to play with in the Gecko decks, the Zoro, right? Zoro being slightly nerfed by forcing you to rest a Dressrosa leader or stage really just makes it unique for this deck only, and maybe Rebecca as well if you choose to play that other blue-black Dressrosa type leader. Frankie, also just a really great card in this deck, right? Being able to play a 3 cost or lower Dressrosa type character from the trash rested is really nice to be able to bring back, as we saw in the match, Leo, right? To do more searching. You could do a Rebecca, or you could do an Ideo. Ideo being a very, very popular card that people have been playing that even works well with Gecko, right? You bring a 4-drop onto the field and maybe you play it rested and you get your 2-drop active as a blocker. The Rebecca, right? Rebecca being a great card, automatically an 8 cost when it comes out onto the field because of that Usopp leader effect, is really great for playing different key cards within your list. The Rebecca, interesting. I almost said in the beginning that it plays 2 7 costs, but it's a little bit different. You have to reveal 2 cost or 7 lower Dressrosa type characters from your hand. You play one of them, and then if the other one is a 4 cost or lower, you then play it as rested. So if it's not, you wouldn't be able to play it at all. So it's a little bit different of wording that you have to make sure that you know. And Cavendish working out so well within this deck from the beautiful Pirates Dressrosa package. We didn't see the new secret rare Monkey D. Luffy in this game, but is very nice as a 6 cost, can't be KO'd by opponent's effects once per turn. So if you faced another like black matchup, right, that KO'd characters like Rob, Lucci, or Teach, it would take a lot to be able to knock this guy. And then has the ability to shorten the opponent's hand, right, shave off resources by forcing them to trash a card. Honestly, very cool to see Usopp within this match. I was very excited to get all the text this morning about it, and I'm glad that even with awful, this hotel Wi-Fi is absolutely awful. It is so bad. I was like, oh my gosh, I was trying to upload the video this morning and it was just miserable. But I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you enjoy all the rest of our videos. I'm not here for very long. I'm going to be back like tomorrow night. I'm going to be back on Monday night. So there's only like another day or 2 of these kinds of videos where I have just a nice iPhone mic and no real good sound or lighting or anything like that. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching and hope to see you again soon.